Aunt Shan says it's just an ordinary crypt, but I know it's not because at night there's voices. So please, could you send someone to fix it?
All right, it is time for our interview with Caitlin Blackwood. Please welcome our interviewer, Ben Ellis.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, and today I have the privilege. Well, hello there.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, our virtual guest of honor, Caitlin Blackwood. So my first question I wanted to ask you is this. You were here about 10 years ago for Convergence?
I was.
Now, that was in the summertime when it was very warm in Minnesota. Do you think you'd ever want to come to Minnesota in the wintertime where it's very cold?
Yeah, well, I'm from Scotland, so I'm quite climatized to the cold weather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've had some snow the last couple of days, so I'm very used to it being cold.
Nice. Well, thank you for being here. And my first question for you is this. How did you get into acting?
So I kind of fell into acting a little bit, actually. I never acted before Doctor Who. And then one day my older cousin, Karen, who played the older Amy Pond.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard of her. I'm just kidding.
No. She had mentioned to the producers of Doctor Who that I looked a little bit like her because they had been auditioning girls all over the country trying to find someone to play the young Amelia Pond, and they couldn't find anybody. And she had said to them, I have a cousin, I've never met her, but she looks a bit like me. Would you like me to ask her if she would be interested? So I went and did a audition in Edinburgh. And then after that, I came back to Edinburgh for a callback audition. And then I went to Cardiff to do a screen test with Matt Smith. And then they told me I had the part.
Oh, very neat. What was it like working with Matt?
It was amazing. He is just as you'd imagined. He is crazy, very fun. But yeah, he is. I would describe him as like a puppy dog. He's like full of energy all the time. It'll be like 6 a.m. You're just arriving on set and he's like full of energy. It's like he's had 6 cups of coffee. But he is a lot of fun to work with. There's never a bored minute on set when he's around.
Oh, that's fantastic. Since this is your first acting, this is the first time you obviously acted with your cousin, correct?
Yeah, so this was the first time I'd met her and
Really?
first time
Okay.
I acted. Yeah, she grew up in Inverness and I was born and I grew up in Northern Ireland. And when I moved over to Inverness, she had just moved to London. So we just kept crossing paths. So we never actually met until the read-through of Doctor Who, the 11th hour.
Now, you were in Northern Ireland?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was born in Ballymena in Northern Ireland.
So I don't know the geography of Ireland at all. So Inverness, is that very far in between where you lived and where she lived?
So Inverness is in Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Failed that geography
different
test.
Countries. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My next question is, do you have any like funny stories on the set when in the episodes that you did, or any funny experiences?
Oh. I think the entire thing was just fun. I remember doing the scene where me and Matt are sitting and eating. He's eating the fish fingers and custard, and I was very lucky. I got to eat ice cream, and I just remember sitting and eating the ice cream, even when in between takes I was sitting enjoying this ice cream. And I don't think I was supposed to because they kept telling me, like, Caitlin, you need to wait until we say action before you can eat the ice cream. But I was just loving it. I just was enjoying the ice cream. I have a memory of, there was one scene where I was asleep on the suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was in the script that Matt had to bend down and pick me up, and this was in, I think it's The Big Bang, where he is talking to Amelia while she's sleeping. So he picks her up from the suitcase, and I remember like being asleep, and when he went down to pick me up, his trousers is split right up the middle. And I remember I was acting, and I was trying to act really professional, and all I could hear was costume, costume, because he had ripped all of his pants. Yeah, and then I fell asleep. I fell completely asleep during that scene, and they shout cut, and I was still sleeping there for another 20 minutes.
You're just knocked out,
Yeah,
And
that's all just real.
So did you like wake up after they yelled that, or were you still dozing, sleeping?
No, I was still asleep. Somebody had to come and like wake me up and say, Caitlin, it's over. The scene's done. You don't need to be asleep anymore.
Neat. Excuse me. What time is it there right now where you are?
So at the minute it's 5:20.
Well, right now it's 11 in the morning here. So.
Oh gosh.
Oh, excuse me. Let's see. What was it like to work with Stephen Moffat, who created your character?
Amazing. He is a really great writer, and he's just the nicest guy as well. He's just really supportive. I remember throughout the entire experience, because this was my first time acting on anything, my first time being on a TV set, my first time just being around all of this environment. So I was really nervous. I was really scared about all of that. But everyone, Stephen Moffat was really supportive, nice. All the producers, all the actors, they were really understanding the fact that I was so young. I'd never been involved in anything like this before. It was just, Stephen Moffat is the nicest guy.
Oh, that's great to hear. Now, when you did you say you were bit by the acting bug when you were doing Doctor? Or did you want to do more performing after that?
Yeah, when I finished Doctor Who, I was at the end of the 11th hour. I remember being just really upset. Like I just had such a good time, and I enjoyed it so much that I didn't really want it to be over. And then they asked me back. And then at the end of The Big Bang, I felt the same. I was so upset it was over. Then they asked me back again, and then they asked me back again. So I definitely got bit by the acting bug, like you say. And then after that, I did do some acting after Doctor Who. I then gave it up for a wee while I was in high school. I was focusing on exams and things like that. And then I went back to it when I was just after high school, and I did some short films and feature films and things like that.
And you did was the film you did with Frasier, the short film, was that your first short film that you did? It was 2018.
So Sundown, that was the first short film I did. And then I did another film with Frasier a few years later.
And another guy, he's Scottish, Sylvester McCoy, too.
Yeah, Sylvester McCoy, yeah. So that was a really cool experience.
Now, after doing Doctor Who, were you aware of who Frasier had played?
I met Frasier through the convention, like doing conventions with him. And at the time, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea. Because I hadn't seen the seasons that he had been in. But he told me all about it, and he played Jamie McCrimmon, is that right?
Yeah, Jamie McCrimmon.
Yeah. So.
And he's also big in England for doing a show that he's not on anymore, Emmerdale. He was like in the original 1972. His character died in 1994, so a bit off. Did you also meet Sylvester through the conventions?
No, the film I did, Perfect Strangers, I believe was the first time I met Sylvester. But that was really cool because Sylvester, he's a Scottish actor and he's really well known for Doctor Who, but he's well known in Scotland for being on a TV show that we have over here called Still Game, which is just it's like a comedy show. He played a part in Still Game, and I remember being very excited to meet Sylvester because I was a big fan of the character he played in Still Game.
Excellent. I mean, he's really funny too, from what I've heard. You know,
Yeah, he's a really funny, nice man, and he was amazing to work with as well. Him and Fraser, the pair of them together is very fun to watch.
Sounds great. Have you done any acting recently? Have you performed or been in any shows?
No. So since before COVID, I haven't done any acting. I kind of took a step back during COVID, and it's still something I'm trying to figure out if I want to go back into. I'm very lucky that I do have my foot in the door if I do ever want to return to acting. But at the minute, I'm not doing any acting at all.
And just, I know you obviously couldn't say anything. Have you been contacted about being in the 60th anniversary at all?
I've not, no.
All right, we need to get on Twitter. Let Stephen Moffat know. We need Caitlin in the 60th. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Let's see. Just looking at my questions here. So, are you in university now, or?
No, I was in university in Glasgow for a wee while, and I was studying acting there at Glasgow Calvin College, which was a really great experience, and I did enjoy it. But I think just like doing learning about acting, I prefer actually acting instead of doing the technical side of things. So I'm not in university anymore. But that was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot of stuff about more like voice acting. They did a little bit of training in voice acting. They did some more like plays and things like that instead of on-screen acting, which was really interesting to learn about. But I think I enjoy just acting more than learning about it.
Did you have a favorite role you played while you were in university?
Yeah, they didn't really do, that's the strange thing. They didn't really do many productions. They did one production of a play called Celebration by Harold Pinter, and I had to play like a middle-aged woman from London, and I had to do a Cockney accent, and it was terrible, but it was a great experience, and I enjoyed doing it. But it's just productions, like theatre work, is not something I've done much of before, so it was very strange for me to see that side of acting. But it was fun. I really liked it.
So do you think you want to make your West End debut at some point down the road?
Maybe one day.
Maybe that'll start smaller, but
Yeah.
Neat. Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions. Does anyone have a question for Caitlin?
Hi, so as a stereotypical American, I have difficulty telling the differences between the various accents across the United Kingdom. But I'm curious, with you and your cousin growing up in such different places, did you have to do any adjustments to your own speaking voice when you took on the role of young Amy Pond?
So I grew up in Northern Ireland, and I had a Northern Irish accent, and then when I moved to Inverness, for some reason it just suddenly changed, and I had an Indonesian accent. But they originally wrote Amelia as English.
Really?
Yeah, they had originally wrote her as English, but I can't do an English accent. I'm really bad at it. So they had changed it to a girl who moved from Scotland to England, and that's what they decided, because I couldn't do an English accent at the time, and so Karen just kept her accent, I kept my accent. It made things a lot easier rather than trying to come up with an English accent.
I was curious too, since you and Karen are cousins, obviously. Did being on Doctor Who bring you closer to her as cousins? Would you say you got to know her better?
Yeah, I think we're a very close family. We come from a really large family. I think there's like 30 of us. So we come from a pretty big family, and she grew up with my older brothers. They were really close. But I think me and Karen are definitely close because no one else in my family really has experienced this before. So we've both been in this kind of this situation, and we both experienced the being on TV and stuff like that. And yeah, it felt like we went through it together. She was a big support when I was on Doctor Who. Me and my mum phoned her for loads of questions. We had no idea what anything was, so she was really helpful. And then we've done conventions together and things like that. So I definitely think it's brought us a lot closer.
Neat.
But as a family in general, we're just a really close family.
That's great. I'm curious, and I apologize for not remembering this. Have you done any Big Finish at all?
I've not, no. I've never done Big Finish.
Is that something that would interest you? I mean, not necessarily playing young Amy Pond, but playing any kind of role in Big Finish?
Yeah, absolutely. I think voice work is something that I would like to look into more. And Big Finish is such an amazing part of Doctor Who. It's really interesting. So yeah, I would love to play something on Big Finish.
Would you want to reprise young Amy Pond if the opportunity was given to you?
Absolutely. I loved playing Amelia Pond, and any opportunity to bring that back, that would be definitely something I'd be interested in.
Do we have another question?
If you could travel in the TARDIS with any doctor, any companion, where would you want to go and why? Oh, and when too?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think I would want to travel with David Tennant because we're both Scottish, so I think we would just get each other. Where would I want to go? That's a very good question. I would love to go into the future as far as I could, like the year, I don't know, 2150 or something, like really far into the future where they've got spaceships and everyone's living underwater, and just to see what it's like, really, because that would be really interesting.
Neat. You've traveled basically all around the world since you've been on Doctor Who for conventions and such. What's your favorite place you visited?
I love coming over to the States. When I was in Minnesota 10 years ago, I went to the Mall of America.
Mall of America.
The Mall of America. Yeah. And I love being in the States so much. The food is so much better over there. The people are always very friendly. Great shopping. So, yeah.
And do you remember when you were at Mall of America, was there anything that stood out to you?
Is there a roller coaster in the...
Yes, there are.
Yeah. That, I think, is crazy. We have nothing like that in Scotland.
And I think it was the first thing for us here in America, too. Because, I mean, obviously, yes, we have roller coasters at theme parks, but never in a mall.
Yeah, it's a very strange place to put a roller coaster, in my opinion. But I don't know, they made it work, so it's...
Oh, they do. It's
cool.
a fun roller coaster to go on, and I don't know if you're aware, it was first called Camp Snoopy. Now, do you know who Snoopy is?
I've heard of Snoopy.
There's Charlie Brown and Snoopy and Linus, and it was created by Charles Schultz, who was from Minnesota. But so first it was called Camp Snoopy, and probably when you were there, it was Nickelodeon Universe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called, yeah.
Neat. What? Yes. Sorry, friend at the back.
This is Natasha. The question that I have is, I'd like to learn more about you as a person versus an actor. So what are some of your favorites in life? Favorite book, favorite TV show? What do you nerd out about?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. I think, so my favorite book of all time is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I read that not long ago, and that's a very good book. My favorite TV show. That's a tricky one. I don't actually watch a lot of TV. I'm very much one of these people that watches one thing and then I watch it over and over and over again. So when I was in my teenage years, I watched Friends, and I just watched that constantly for years. But some TV shows I love. I really like The Sopranos. That's a really good show. I love The Sopranos. And what else? My favorite movie is Little Women. That's another one that I could just watch over and over again.
So I'm curious, is it the Winona Ryder version or the more recent version that was released?
Or the more recent version. I
Okay.
have watched the Winona Ryder version, and it's good, but I just prefer the newest version for some reason.
And correct me if I'm everyone here in the audience, was Katharine Hepburn in a version of Little Women? Have you ever seen any of her performances at all? Like any movies with, any movies with Katharine Hepburn in them?
I think I have. Was she not in a film with, oh gosh, I'm going to get the name. Sydney Poitier?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Yes, I've seen that film. That's a good film. Have I seen anything else with Katharine Hepburn? Probably have.
I would also recommend The African Queen.
Oh,
Because it's her and Humphrey Bogart. And the story is it's the ship that Bogart is the captain of, the African Queen. And Katharine Hepburn is this very upstanding Christian woman, and Bogey is the captain who drinks and is very surly. But it's a really beautiful story.
yeah. Oh, I'll give that a go. I am trying to get into like more classic films right now as well. So.
That's a good one. And so speaking of Bogey, Casablanca would be another one I'd recommend too.
Yeah, I do love Casablanca. I have seen that one.
Neat. So I'm glad you mentioned The Sopranos because I love The Sopranos too. And I'm curious,
It's a good TV show.
who is your favorite character?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Who's my favorite? I love Carmela
She's
Soprano.
great.
Yeah, she's a badass woman.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, but I like Tony as well. I don't know why. I sympathize with him. It's very strange.
He seems like, even though he's like a mob boss, he seems like a modern guy just frustrated by the world,
Yeah.
Like the mob boss is the top layer, but then we have Anthony Soprano underneath. My favorite is Uncle Junior.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because Dominic Chianese, the actor who portrays him, is just really good. And here's another classic movie I'd recommend if you like The Sopranos, The Godfather Part 2.
Oh, okay.
There is The Godfather Part 1, but I just say Part 2 because Dominic Chianese plays, and he's much younger, obviously, because it's 1974. But he plays a much younger character called Johnny Ola.
Oh, cool. I've seen the first Godfather, but I need to see the other ones.
And just stay away from the third one because it's awful. So, what kind of music are you into?
Oh, music. I like a little bit of everything, I think. There's not one specific genre that I listen to. I was very lucky I grew up with my older brothers and sisters who listened to the Spice Girls or loads of different stuff. Blink-182, just loads of stuff. Johnny Cash.
Oh,
My mom she was into Meatloaf and the Eagles, just loads of different bands. But my all-time favorite musician is Billy Joel, and I actually saw him in New York.
Oh, that's amazing. Was it the baseball stadium?
It was Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay. So the arena, the popular arena, but still. And I don't know if you've heard, he's touring right now with Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, and I love Fleetwood Mac as well. Yeah.
That'll be a great concert. So I want to ask you about, are you a big Johnny Cash fan?
I've listened to some of his work, not a lot, but yeah, some of it.
If you really want to hear really good Johnny Cash, I don't know the names of the albums, but they're like the last albums he recorded before. Well, basically, there's a guy in New York by the name of Rick Rubin. Have you heard of like the Beastie Boys and well, I think Beastie Boys, Run DMC. That was the one I was thinking of. So
I've heard of Run DMC, yeah.
So basically, Rick Rubin was a college student at NYC, and in his dorm, he started his own record label. And some of the first people he signed were the Beastie Boys and Run DMC. But now he's like, about many years on, he's a big-time producer, and him and Johnny Cash got together to do these albums called like it's America Volume 1, basically it's volumes 1 through 4. And it's not Johnny just doing country songs. He does a cover of the Beatles song In My Life.
Wow.
Which it's on YouTube and it's beautiful. He also does a cover of a Nine Inch Nails song called Hurt.
All right.
They're all on YouTube too. Yes, Natasha Krentz.
All right, I'm going to bring us back to Doctor Who, and I'm sure you get this question at every convention. But 2 parts of this question. Did you watch Doctor Who before you were on it? And do you watch it after? And then the second part is, assuming you watch it, who's your favorite character, your favorite episode?
So I have watched Doctor Who. In the UK, it's so big. Everyone watches Doctor Who. Everyone knows about it. And when I was growing up, I had lots of friends who loved Doctor Who. So I definitely watched it before I was on it. And I watched a lot of Christopher Eccleston season and some of David Tennant's season as well. I haven't seen the newer episodes. I haven't seen any of Peter Capaldi's episodes. And I haven't seen Jodie Whittaker either. But my favorite, that's a good question, my favorite episode. I remember watching it after I'd left Doctor Who, and it was the rest of like Karen and Matt's season. I really liked the pirate, is it the pirate ship one?
Curse of the Black Spot.
Yeah, I really liked that one. I thought that was a good episode. And there was another one that I really liked as well. And I can't remember the name of it. But the Curse of the Black Spot, yeah, I remember watching that and I really enjoyed that one.
Are you a big Downton Abbey fan?
I've never seen Downton Abbey, actually.
Okay, I just say that because one of the Hugh Bonneville, who's in Downton Abbey, plays a role in Curse of the Black Spot. So.
Oh right, okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
Actually, I have another question to Doctor Who related for you. So after working with Frasier and Sylvester, did you watch any of their episodes that they were in?
I've not seen any of the earlier Doctor Who's. That is something. So I did start watching from like the Christopher Eccleston start.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of stopped watching just after Christopher Eccleston. But I've not seen any of the earlier stuff. I do need to watch that.
Sylvester is, if you ever see any of Sylvester's episodes, he's just as funny as you probably in real life is. You know him, obviously, but he's, well, I don't know if you know this, but Sophie Alder is a guest we have here this weekend. Mm-hmm. So, do you know Sophie? Have you met her before?
I've met Sophie before, yeah, a couple of times.
So she was the Sylvester's companion. She says when you watch a Sylvester episode, that's the real person you're seeing on screen.
Yeah, I can imagine. He would be a funny character.
And we have some questions. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my friend and I are planning a trip to Scotland, and we were wondering where we need to go.
Wow, there's so many places to go in Scotland. It depends where you're going, but I would really recommend the Highlands. There's so much scenery up here. You've got Loch Ness, which is really pretty. The Cairngorm Mountains. If you like history, we've got the Culloden Battlefield up here. We've also got Clavicairns and the Viaduct, which is where they filmed the Harry Potter, the bridge where the train goes over in Harry Potter. If you're going to Edinburgh, that's really historical as well. We've got Edinburgh Castle, or Loch Lomond is a really nice, pretty sight to see. There's so many nice places in Scotland. I would really recommend coming. But come in the summertime when it's like a lot warmer.
Another question? Go ahead.
So living in the UK where Doctor Who is so iconic, what was it like after you filmed your scenes and then saw yourself on TV for the first time? And did you watch with your friends or family or both?
Good question.
Yeah, so the first episode, they did a kind of like tour, the BBC, and Karen and Matt were going to different cities and doing like a premiere. And they came to Inverness to do a premiere. And I remember all my classmates from school were invited to it, and they all watched the first episode with me and Matt and Karen and some other BBC producers and things like that. Then when it came out like publicly, my family held a party for me and Karen, and we all got together and we all watched it, and me and Karen were hiding behind the sofa because we were both cringing at watching ourselves on TV. But it was really strange watching me and her on TV. But it was so cool at the same time because you film it in little bits and then finally you see it all come together. But it's always weird watching yourself on television.
Very true. Very true. You have another question, sir?
Yes. First of all, very impressed by the poise you have as someone in, I guess, early 20s. And frankly, the poise you had back when you were like 10 years old doing Doctor Who the first time. That's impressive. Have you ever considered, I mean, among all the options you have in your life, what things might you do other than acting along the way?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you. That is a very good question. I'm not really sure, if I'm honest. I've done lots of different things. When I was in school, in high school, I had a job waitressing. I've worked in hotels before. I've worked in shops. I've done actually a lot of jobs that are not acting at all. And I really enjoy just having like just a job, like a part-time job. I really enjoyed that in school. I enjoyed waitressing, but I don't have any solid plans. I'm just kind of seeing where life takes me, which I think is kind of a good thing. I don't put a lot of pressure because I know that whatever happens will happen. I don't really think about it too much.
Right on.
That's fair. Thank you.
Now, when you were working these jobs, has anybody ever recognized you and like, oh my God, it's the girl from Doctor Who serving me coffee?
Yeah, that happened quite a lot of times actually. I used to have people come in. I worked in a restaurant, and people would come in and they would be like, "Oh my God, you're in Doctor Who," and I would be clearing plates, and then I would be taking photos with them in my uniform. So it has happened a couple of times, and it's a weird experience because a lot of my friends that I had worked with, they didn't really see me as an actress. They just saw me as Caitlin who comes to work. So when they saw people, being like fangirling over me and stuff like that, they were very shocked by it.
What was your first convention? What was the first convention you attended?
The first convention I attended was Showmasters, I think it's called, in
London?
London. Yeah, that was the first convention I'd done.
So I'm going to assume you never had been to like a science fiction fantasy convention before that.
No, I hadn't.
What was your first reaction?
So I was so shocked because I never knew that this had existed. I didn't know anything about, conventions or Comic-Cons or anything like that. So when I first got to a convention, I couldn't believe that there was this other side of Doctor Who. But it was amazing because everyone was so excited to see me and meet me, and I had people coming up to me dressed as the character I played, and it was really freaky to see, but it was really cool at the same time. So and then going to all these different places, and then so at first I didn't even know conventions were a thing, and then people said, oh, you should, go to America, like they love it in America. And I was like, what? They love it in America? Like, I didn't even know that it was shown in America. And then I've had people from all over the world come and meet me. And then every time they come, somebody came from South Korea once, and I was like, they show it? It's like it's crazy. It's just, but it's really cool.
Have you, are there any actors you've seen, besides the main actors in Doctor Who, that you've, fangirled over yourself?
Yeah, loads of people, actually. There was a time I watched Game of Thrones, and I remember seeing some of the actors from Game of Thrones. I met Maisie Williams, and a few other characters from Game of Thrones. I can't remember their names now, but and I was fangirling over them. I remember being at a convention with my mum, and she met somebody from Breaking Bad, and she was a huge Breaking Bad fan, and we were standing in the elevator with him, and she was like fangirling over this guy from Breaking Bad. There's been so many actors and actresses that I've met that I just love their work. I'm really lucky that I've managed to meet them.
Is there any, a dream person you want to meet? One day you walk out your door, wherever you are, and oh my God, it's...
That's a good question as well. Dream person I'd love to meet. Oh, I don't know, actually. Now I have to...
Fair enough. I'm going to ask her, sorry. Have you gotten to visit Karen on any of the Marvel movie sets at all?
No, not yet. I'm hoping one day she'll say to me, do you want me to fly you over so you can come and meet all the actors, Chris Pratt. Yeah, and all the actors on Dave Bautista and all that. But not yet.
Cool. Were you a fan, before you did Doctor Who, were you a fan of science fiction fantasy TV shows at all? Or movies?
I remember I watched Marvel growing up, and kind of Harry Potter. I grew up with Harry Potter and watching Doctor Who. When I was younger, I watched the Sarah Jane Adventures. I was a big fan of the Sarah Jane Adventures growing up. But I can't remember anything else.
And here's a funny thing. Another guest of honor we have here is Tommy Knight.
Oh, wow.
Have you met Tom before?
I don't think so.
He's actually signing autographs right now, but he's a real nice guy, and yeah, neat. So many questions. Is there anywhere you visited, is there anywhere in the world that you have visited, is there anywhere in the world that you haven't gone yet that you'd like to visit, country, state, anything like that?
Yeah, there's loads of places that I would love to visit. I would love to one day go over to Asia and see Japan. And apparently that Doctor Who's also been shown over there. So that's really cool. But also Australia, I've never been to Australia. If I can get over my fear of spiders and snakes, maybe one day I'll venture out that way.
And people have told me, and I won't go into too many details because it kind of grosses me out. There are spiders literally big as cats over there.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, nope.
Yeah, once they eradicate those kind of spiders, then maybe I'll go out there.
And so have you been to the big Who conventions in California and Chicago? Gallifrey and Chocolate TARDIS?
I have been to Gallifrey. I've not been to Chicago, no.
Okay. And that, I assume that was also your first time in California. What did you think of being in California?
Really cool. I really enjoyed it. It's really cool. Just America in general. I really like it. Everything is so cool over there. The food and the places. And when I was in California, we went to Universal Studios
Yep.
over there. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I loved it over there.
Yes.
This is Natasha again. Scenario. We're at a hotel and we've rented a conference room and we're going to have a big dinner with like 40 people. What is being served?
Ooh.
What are we eating at this meal?
That's a good question. I think I would hope for something Scottish, some traditional Scottish food. Maybe some haggis, maybe some fish fingers and custard as well, just thrown in there for dessert.
And Natasha also wanted to follow up. What 40 people would you have there? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So what has been? What was your favorite American food when you've been in America?
Oh, good. I remember every single time I've been to America, I always get chicken tenders. I love the chicken tenders.
Those are my favorite too.
Yeah, I love, and all the fast food places you have over there that we don't have here. It's amazing.
And what they have too, and you can buy in the supermarkets here in America, is you can buy buffalo flavored chicken tenders.
Ooh.
And honey barbecue chicken tenders.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to move to America. I think, for the chicken tenders
come.
alone.
You know, I was thinking like, you know, I wonder if she'd come here in the winter just to compare when she was here in the summer, you know, and we would be like, we're sorry, we're so sorry. I work for a local theater in town called the Guthrie Theater, and we just had our holiday party, and they served vegan chicken tenders.
Interesting.
They were good. You couldn't tell.
Oh.
They tasted like a
okay.
regular chicken tender. And I'm like, I'm not, like, I like the vegetarian burgers, but I wasn't sure. I had a few of them. They were delicious, even with barbecue sauce.
Nice. I've not tried any kind of like vegan meat before, so it's good that it tastes nice.
It's good because I don't know if this is still true, but when I was in England about 20 years ago, I bought a Coke at the airport because I wanted something to drink, and I didn't know that it had vegetable. We have corn syrup in our sodas, but you guys have vegetable root. I think that's what it's called. And it was like drinking a Coke but eating a carrot at the same time. And we have another question.
I have an important question for you as a Scots. Haggis, do you want it boiled or do you want it fried?
Ooh, fried. Definitely
concur.
fried. I don't think
concur.
I've had boiled haggis before. But in Scotland, they do they're called haggis puddings, and they're just like a wee circle of haggis, and sometimes they deep fry that, and it's very tasty. In Scotland, we like to deep fry everything. We deep fry Mars bars, like chocolate candy and everything.
At our state fairs here in Minnesota, we deep fry Oreo cookies.
Really?
Yes.
Why does that sound good? That sounds like it would be tasty.
It is good from what I've heard. And another thing we do too, we have these things called pig lickers. And that is bacon dipped in chocolate.
Ooh.
And also, and I've never had this at the state fair, they also serve alligator.
Alligator?
Yes. So talking about food, because why not? What were some of your favorite restaurants when you've that you've enjoyed when you were in the States?
One of my favorite restaurants is the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, yeah.
I love cheesecake so much, so that is one of my favorite places for sure. But yeah, like I said, you have all the amazing fast food places in America that we just don't have in Scotland. So last time I was in America, we tried to hit as many of the fast food places as possible. So we went to Chick-fil-A, we went to Arby's, we went to, where else did we go? Taco Bell. There was loads of places. We just tried to tick off as many places on our list as we could.
Have you ever had a chance to gone to Chipotle?
No, I've never been to Chipotle. I see it all the time on the internet, and I really want to try it one day.
It's really good. I can't believe this is healthy Taco Bell.
Oh.
It's like I love to get the burritos from there, and it's like how you eat a burger and you get really tired after eating a burger. But like when you eat a Chipotle burrito or a burrito bowl, you don't get tired. It's like you have energy still,
Nice.
And they have the best chips, the best, you'd call them crisps, but the best crisps because they're salted, like with very spicy salt. Can't talk today, very spicy seasonings.
Nice. I like spicy food.
Yes. So you said you like to read Where the Crawdads Sing. What other books have you enjoyed reading?
One of my favorite authors is, he was called Sidney Sheldon. I don't think he's alive anymore, but he does really good, kind of crime novels. And my mom got me into reading Sidney Sheldon books. I love to read. What else do I like to read? I read Little Women before I watched the film, which was really good. And yeah, I don't really have a certain genre that I like to read. I just like to kind of mix it up every now and then and see what I like. But I really need to read some of the classics. I read Rebecca recently by Daphne du Maurier, and that was really good. And I've bought a few of her other books. I bought Jamaica and Not Long Ago as well. So,
if you have a chance, there's an Alfred Hitchcock book based on Rebecca. Yeah, I'm still tired. There's an Alfred Hitchcock movie based on Rebecca, and it's been done a bunch of times. But I think that was the first version. And so speaking of classic film, and you mentioned Sidney Sheldon. So Sidney Sheldon was good friends with an American comedian by the name of Groucho Marx. Do you know who that is?
I've heard of Groucho Marx. I don't think I've seen any of their work.
So Groucho Marx and his brothers, Chico and Harpo, and sometimes Zeppo, they did these Marx Brothers movies. And the best way I could compare them, and please somebody correct me, it's like an Adam Sandler movie if an Adam Sandler movie was made in 1930. And Groucho is a great humorist, and he does such a great job with wordplay. One of his jokes was there's a movie called, and I'm glad my father is not watching because he would be so ashamed of me, Animal Crackers. And his famous joke from Animal Crackers is this: once I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How it got in my pajamas, I'll never know. Yes, Natasha.
We only have about 9 minutes left, so I'm going to throw some fast questions out at you.
Oh, okay.
If we sit down to play a game, what game are we going to play?
Scrabble. I love Scrabble.
Oh, you're my best friend. I've got my Scrabble right here.
So if you can just stay on for a bit, quick game.
Wonderful. If I go get you a drink, what's it going to be?
Is it a soft drink or an alcoholic drink?
That's up to you.
Oh, right now, Pepsi.
All right. Favorite color of the rainbow?
Purple.
Yeah, it counts.
Oh, it's allowed, yes.
Let's see. My mind went blank.
I do have a good one too. If you were going to write an autobiography about your life, what would the title be?
Oh, that's a good one. The Caitlin Blackwood story.
Well, it's a start. It's a start. Yeah. Groucho Marx, who I mentioned earlier, one of his books that he wrote about himself was called Memoirs of a Mangy Lover. And he was a dirty old man, but he was a funny dirty old man. Bruce!
All right.
Thank you so much for doing this. With all the conventions that you've attended, what's the best question you've been asked?
Oh, the best question. That question right there is the best question I've been asked.
Yay, Bruce! You
Cheater,
broke the
cheater.
mold.
All right, I've got another one. First Doctor Who villain that comes to your mind.
The silence.
You can remember them still? Well done.
I have another question too. So when you were here in Minnesota, I don't know if you remember this, you were in a skit at Convergence. Do you remember anything about that at all?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on.
Favorite Marvel character? You said you watched them growing up.
Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in particular.
Not Tom Holland?
No.
Well, that's fair. Toby is better. Hey, I was okay. Never mind. Eleanor, do you have another question?
If you, as Amelia Pond, could go up against any any villain or monster from who would you want to go up against?
Ooh. Weeping Angels.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Got another question here.
Playing a younger version of Karen, would you consider shaving your hair and doing a young Nebula?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Just for the big butts, though.
Yeah. Did you ever see her TV show she did in America called Selfie?
I have seen clips of Selfie. I've never actually watched an episode of it.
Now, would you like to? I think it's based on My Fair Lady. Oh, it is because her character is called Eliza. So a young, would you play like a young Eliza Doolittle or Karen's character in the show I mentioned?
In Selfie? Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's been really great to talk to you. This is been one of the highlights of my weekend. So now, if you had like any advice about acting or life, what advice would you give?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think my main advice is that you should keep doing it. And it's one of the toughest industries to be in. You're going to get so many rejections, and you've got to build that thick skin where you can just take it and move on. But if it's something you really want to do, keep doing it no matter what. And whatever way you can do it, if it's like just doing a minor, tiny little roles, just go for it.
And my one final question. Would you, if you were invited, this is not a guarantee of anything, would you come to Minnesota in the winter?
Yeah, I would love to.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, Caitlin Blackwood. Give it up for Caitlin. Woo!
Thank you so much.
Thanks again. That was really fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so cool to see everyone. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you all for attending. See you next time.